Hi beautiful angels, my name is Leah Fawn aka Leah, and today I would love to talk to you about the Dog Island. And wait, okay, that's better. Anyway, as I was saying, I would love to talk about the Dog Island, which is one of my favorite games in the world that like no one in my real life has ever heard of. To start, I'll explain what the Dog Island is. Now, the Dog Island is actually a children's RPG. You play as... I'll pause here, I'll let you guess what you play as in the Dog Island. Yeah, a dog. The game first released in Japan in 2007 in April, and it was originally called The Dog Island Hitotsu no Hana no Monogatari. I don't know where the emphasis on those words go, so forgive me. Then it released in the rest of the world in 2008 as just The Dog Island, which is the version I played. The developer of The Dog Island is Ukes or Ukes, I don't know. And then the publisher it's by Ubisoft. I played it on the PlayStation 2, but it was also available on the Nintendo Wii. So first of all, the game looks super weird, actually. I'll insert a picture probably to like my left. You might recognize it from McDonald's toys from the early 2000s. They had little keychains. But before any of that, the dog was actually a collection of fisheye lens photos, which you might recognize also by Artlist Collection. And besides the point, when I was a kid, I thought it was Artist Collection. Anyway, so the style of the game, like I said, is bizarre. And you have to get used to it a little bit at first, but I genuinely think that the plot and the soundtrack, which I'll get into, definitely makes up for all of that. Let's get into the plot of The Dog Island. So for a game called The Dog Island, the plot is strangely compelling, especially for a children's RPG, which admittedly I haven't played a lot of. So you play as whatever dog breed you pick, and there are 48 breeds to choose from. I will not name them all, but feel free to look them up if you'd like to. Select the name and gender as the breed you select, and then the gender of your sibling in-game. You start out in the game in a town called Pururo Town. It starts out with a few fetch quests and then a festival. In the festival, you complete in events, mostly sniffing, I believe, and sniffing in this game is a mechanic where I couldn't tell you which button you push off the top of the dome, but you have to, it's kind of like you're a puppy metal detector, I suppose. Like you get closer to it and this meter will light up and beep, and then you dig, and then you find whatever item it is you were seeking out. The events in the festival are you finding certain items like a scavenger hunt, and your little sibling comes out and watches you compete after some pushback because your sibling is sick and they should be inside resting. You end up winning, and then you're gifted a bouquet of flowers. You have these friends in game and they're like, what are you gonna do with the flowers? Obviously you're gonna give them to your sibling, and then the sibling gets so excited and they start jumping. They're like, flowers for me, yippee, and then they collapse. Oh no. Yeah. So this little puppy is just collapsing on the ground, and then the music gets all sad, and it's so stressful and weird. The doctor in town, Dr. Hill, or Dogtor, if you will, comes in to see your sibling. The doctor tells you that there's nothing really that he can do to help your sibling's condition, and that it will worsen and there's not much that anyone can do to stop it. In fact, your dad in the game is revealed to have disappeared after a ship voyage to the Dog Island, you know, the title, but he was searching for a cure. On the Dog Island, there's a famous doctor named Dr. Potian, and he is legendary. He's a very good doctor. It feels like kind of your only hope to find a cure for whatever your sibling has. You decide to attempt the same thing, much to the dismay of your mother, which is so sad because she's like, I can't lose another one, because she lost her like husband, and she thinks she's gonna lose your younger sibling because like apparently no one can cure them. So it's just very devastating for a kid's game, and that is a common theme actually. I will get into that, of course. Despite your mom's protest, you decide that you have to do this. You have to go try at least to save your sibling, and there is a pirate ship type thing at the dock, and there's a dog called El Dorado, and he is the captain of this ship and agrees to let you come with them on the next voyage but you have to earn your keep, and you do that by doing little tasks like swabbing the deck. And then there's a fishing mechanic. There's fishing and catching bugs in this game, which is very like Animal Crossing, but I think it's cute, and the mechanic is, I'd say it's like somewhere between Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley in terms of difficulty from what I remember, but that also could be because I was a kid and I didn't have the best like fine motor skills, but I don't remember getting frustrated with it. I think it's fun. Anyway, unfortunately, during the voyage, a large storm comes in, and El Dorado is very concerned about this and says that the trip is off. It's canceled. You can't go any further because this storm is too threatening and you'll never make it. And so he is about to turn the ship around, and you are stubborn and you're desperate, and so you're like, no, I can't go back, and you jump into the stormy water. I forgot to mention this, but there is a cutscene before this storm where everything is just like the sea life and everything's going fine, but then there's this bird that is injured and you nurse it back to health, and then it flies away, and that's relevant. Okay, back to the linear plot. So yes, you jump into the water. Everyone on the crew is freaking out. They can't do anything though, and so then it kind of fades to black, and then you wake up and you're in the company of this, I think she's a yellow lab. She has these like big red bows with little bells on them in her ears. It's very cute, and her name is Amalia, and she says that the bird actually like alerted her to where you were or something like that, and she has you in her house, and you tell her what's going on. After you meet Amalia, you do meet Dr. Potan, and he ends up telling you that you need to find these specific herbs, and you do it. You do a bunch of little quests, you play the game, you find these herbs, you bring them back to him, and he decides to come back with you to Peruro Town, your hometown, and he meets with your sibling, meets your mom, and his prognosis is not good. He says that all he can do really is slow the symptoms, but he can't cure your sibling. You're feeling pretty hopeless at this point, but then he seems to have this revelation, and he's like, wait, there is one thing that I can maybe do. I'm not sure if it's real. And you're like, what are you talking about? And he's like, there's this thing called the legendary flower, and legend has it that it can cure anything, but I've never seen one with my own eyes. I don't know if they're real, but that's your best bet. And so you go back to the Dog Island with like renewed determination, and you meet with Amalia's brother Alex, who's like a pretty smart guy. And by the way, I am condensing a lot of this because it is like a 15-hour game. He tells you that you should probably talk to Obaba, who is like a witch doctor type dog. She tells you that no one can actually detect a legendary flower except for something called a sniff master, and this leads into maybe my least favorite part of the game. I'll just go into it here. It's basically like a martial arts adjacent type of thing, even though it's not. Like I said, there's a sniff mechanic, and you can find things that you already know the scent of, but then sometimes in your little sniff meter, I'll probably put a picture of it, it will show you like a purple question mark, and that means that it's something that you can smell that isn't something you smelled before, but you don't know what it is yet. And you discover a lot of like food items and flowers and things like that this way. Sniff masters are basically people or dogs with like a huge catalog of things they've detected before. And so you have to train under these maestros. I don't know. They have dojos, whatever they're called. Be an apprentice under them, and you move on. I think there's 3 of them that you have to study under. One you find out in the fields, and he seems kind of shady, but he's not, arguably. Originally what he wants you to do is find these fragments of his ring, like a sniff master. I don't know. It's a whole thing, but he is a bit self-serving in the beginning, but then he sees how determined you are, and he sends you to someone who's like a few levels higher than him. And then that person sends you to someone higher than them, and it Yeah, you become a sniff master. And another relevant quest that leads into some plot details is that there is a thing called an Ankh, or an Ankh. I think an Ankh, it's A-N-C. There is this quest, and it starts because you need somewhere to stay, and there's this, like, rich person named Noble who's a Yorkie, and he is like, well, you can rent this property, but I think it's haunted. And so you have to sniff it out, and it's this little black creature thing, and it is the Ankh, and his name is Patasi. He is an Ankh, and you learned that he is from, like, the land of Ankhs, or whatever it's called. And he was doing mischievous pranks and getting up to trouble, and so the Ankh queen banished him to the world of the dogs. So in a way, he's kind of like a fallen angel, and he has to, like, do good things in the dog world to, like, elevate his status and get back to the Ankh world. There's a physical representation of this in the form of an Ankh tree, which grows as you two do these little fetch quests together. And that's not the only benefit you do from the extra quest. You get these things called woofs, which is the in-game currency, and you can spend it on different things, but I mainly remember spending it on accessories. You can dress up your dog with, like, hats and scarves and cute things, and sometimes they're actually functional. For example, there are, like, frozen wastelands in the game that you have to traverse through, and if you're wearing a scarf, it actually helps you not freeze as fast, which I think is cool that the items have a benefit like that. Basically, the whole game is you doing all of these things in search of the legendary flower to cure your sibling, but you end up making connections with all sorts of different dogs and doing all sorts of different things, and it gets pretty intense sometimes. It's very cool. I'll talk about some of the quests that I remember the most. For example, there is one with Frances, who is the nurse of Dr. Potin, and she is terrified of blood. There are these 3 dogs in the town that kind of terrorize everybody, and they're called the Victory Gang, and they've been throwing tomatoes at Frances, and her phobia has gotten worse and worse, and so it's so bad that the color red will just render her helpless, and so they throw these tomatoes at her, and she's just, like, shaking on the ground, and she comes to you, and she's like, I need this thing called a brave fruit, where if I eat it I won't be afraid anymore, and so you have to go find that. But the thing is that you learn later on why she has this phobia, and it's weirdly dark. I'm pretty sure the dog's name was Elaine, that's her childhood friend, and they got into a fight when they were puppies, I guess, but they got into a fight that was so bad that Frances thought she had killed Elaine, which is crazy, but she didn't. You end up meeting Elaine and they get reunited and everything's fine. Apparently Elaine just had to move away and they were fighting, so she didn't tell her. There's something with Dr. Potin as well, where Frances sends you on another quest to basically stalk this doctor, because one day or 1 week out of every year, he walks somewhere by himself, won't let anyone come with him, won't tell anyone what he's doing, and everyone's getting kind of, like, freaked out and suspicious about it, because, like, what are you doing? And so she sends you to snoop on him, and so you do, and you find that he's going to his late partner's grave. He ends up telling you this, like, horrible story about how he couldn't save her with his medicine and she passed away, and that is why he's, like, devoted his life to becoming the best doctor he can. Like, he felt like a failure, and it's very sad. I cry at that quest every time. But yeah, that's why he's so invested in your sibling's case now, because this seems like another situation where there's a seemingly impossible illness, and this time he wants to overcome it. Not just for you or your family, but because it will feel like a redemption in a way. Those are the quests that I think about the most. The ending of the game is that you do become a sniff master. Then you get Patasi back to the Ankh world, back to the Ankh queen, everything's good. And then you go back home, and apparently Dr. Potin is your dad now. Like, I think he's with your mom. So that's cool. But your sibling gets cured, and it ends with a festival again. And your sibling's happy this time. And then Patasi comes back, I think. So that's cute. It does have a happy ending. I think it's a super charming and, like, weirdly compelling game, to be honest. Now that I'm kind of done talking about the plot, I would love to talk about the soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack has no reason to go as hard as it does. It's very similar to other video games where there's different soundtracks and vibes for different worlds or lands or cutscenes. I think they use a lot of acoustic instrumentals and a lot of, I think it's a mandolin actually, but it's very calming, and I have such vivid memories of like staying home sick from school as a kid and falling asleep to like specifically the Grassy Meadows theme. But that's not my favorite. My favorite's the Wasteland theme and the Cave theme. Oh my gosh, I'll have to play those. And I'm also going to link a playlist of the original soundtrack in my description if you want to hear it. I promise it is so calming. It's probably good for like sleeping or studying or anything like that. It's so underrated. And it is composed by... Hey, Editing Leah here. So Chutara Moritake is actually not the composer. He is the guitarist and mandolin player, but the actual composer is Eriko Chubak. Chutaro Moritake, I think. Shutara Moritake is the composer of all of it except for the opening theme, which I have not listened to as much. It plays when you boot up the game, but it was not ever my favorite. So I'll put the name of that one right here. I have the game right here. Like I said, I played it on the PS2, so that is what that looks like. Yeah, it's very cute. Now, this video is clearly not a super deep dive or anything. It's my first YouTube video ever. I will try to get better, try to do better videos about things. I really wasn't sure which direction to take this channel in at all. I'm probably going to branch out. Yeah, my videos might get better, or they might just stop happening for me. Very experimental. I don't really care if this video gets views or anything. I'm just doing this purely for fun. I love horror, I love cute things, I love plushies, as you can probably tell by my room, the color pink. And I love other video games besides this one, usually either horror games or funny games or cozy games. I've made all of the art that is on my channel, so if you're interested in that, I do post my art on Instagram. I'll put the @ right here. It is Puppy Treats with 2 Y's. If you've made it this far, sincerely, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know I'm not very polished or anything, and there's probably a lot more that I could have gotten into about this game. I am not established. I do not really know what I'm doing in the least. Thank you so much, beautiful angels, and I hope you have a great day or night or whatever time it is. Just take care of yourself. Thank you.